So cool. How many are not from Colorado?
Rise of the humans.
Creativity, strategic thinking, problem solving.
Welcome, welcome, welcome to Fun with Retros, revitalizing teams for Salesforce admins, because we're at Salesforce, but really, if you are a professional person, retros are going to be useful for you. Of course, thank you to our sponsors. I've had a chance to talk to many of you and also some amazing products, so thank you all for being here. My name is Rachel. I am the Program and Operations Manager over at Clicked. I see some of our amazing learners over there. So in true Clicked fashion, there's going to be a lot of jam-packed information in this session. I'm a certified Scrum Master and also Salesforce admin. And in my day job, I teach people the principles of Scrum and Salesforce. So that's me.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming. My name is Andrew Wilson. I'm a solutions architect at Huron Consulting Group. I'm also a certified Scrum Master, product owner, and PMP, and a proud Salesforce mentor. And I'm very happy to be here to talk to you all about this topic today. It's near and dear to our hearts. So thank you all for coming.
All right. Here's what we're talking about today. And basically, now that I'm looking at this, there's a lot of alliteration, so let me just break it down. We're going to tell you what retros are, why they're important, what happens if you skip them, some use cases, give you all some actionable tips on how to conduct these with yourself as well as with your team. Obviously, tools are important for that. We're going to walk through how to make this applicable in Salesforce. We're super excited to share about a custom app that you can use for retros. And then, of course, queries and qualms. There will be some time for Q&A at the end. So if you've got questions, please feel free to write those down in case you forget, and we'll be here after the session as well to take any questions. All right, so first off, what is a retro? Why is it important? And the weight, what happens if you skip it? Next slide.
There we go. Now I got it.
There we go. All right, so raise of hands, how many of you are familiar with Scrum or Agile methodologies? Okay, excellent. All right, so mostly everyone. I will speed through this then very quickly. Sprint planning, you decide what you're going to create in the sprint, the 2 to 3 week period. You make your backlog. You do the daily scrum. You check in, make sure we're heading in the right direction. Sprint review, look at this beautiful thing that we've built. Let's look at it. Let's see how awesome it is. Let's see what improvements we need to make. Refining of the backlog, which is, adjusting your compass along the way, making sure that the backlog is in order, etc. And then what we will be talking about today, which is one of 5 Scrum ceremonies, the Sprint Retrospective, where you look at the process of how did we create this, how did it go, what worked, what didn't work, what are we going to do differently, etc. If we skip the retro, we're really missing uncovering those golden nuggets of what isn't working and what do we have to do next time to make sure that, A, we don't repeat the same mistakes again. We don't keep running on that hamster wheel and doing the same things over and over again, as well as celebrating the progress, because I don't know about you, it's really hard to create a sustainable team or project or really follow things through to the end unless we take the time to celebrate all the awesome things that we are doing along the way.
All right, so retrospectives can actually be used in a lot of varieties of life, not only Scrum ceremonies. They can be used for personal reasons, such as fitness goals, skills building, habit changes, as well as, of course, the more obvious choices, the business realm, project debriefs, end of user trainings. You can run retros at the end of product rollouts. And of course, the most popular one is during Scrum ceremonies at the end of a sprint. The next few slides, Rachel and I are going to be talking you through the different types of retros, some tips and techniques for how to conduct them, and some awesome tools to make your retro go awesome. So there are actually a ton of different types and styles and flavors of retros available. These are just a few of them that exist out in the world. There's templates. There's all types of fun things out there. But all of these retro types all solve the same backbone question. They all ask 3 things. What went well in the thing that we're reviewing? What didn't go well? And what can we improve upon? So whether it's mad, sad, glad, or stop, start, continue, roast, thorn, bud, they all sort of hit those 3 items. Later on, we're going to talk about start, stop, continue, but right now I'm going to hand it over to Rachel to talk about rose, thorn, bud.
Yeah. So how many of you have used rose, thorn, bud before? Okay, a couple. Good. I chose a good one because I think that this one is not as popular, but it's also really fun. So it's a little bit small, unfortunately, with this text, so I'll break it down. This personal retro is one that I did for my summer training block for a training for a marathon that I did. So some of the roses, right? The rose is, what did we love? The thorn obviously is, what are those thorns in our sides that we didn't super enjoy? And the buds is almost this, what are we going to do differently / what is budding in our future? What can we look forward to, if you will? So this is Miro, which is an amazing tool. I'll talk to you all about this a little bit later. But this is something that we can do in our personal lives to get in the practice of doing this. Personally, I do this every week for myself with personal as well as professional goals, and it's a great habit to get into because what you learn is that the more you practice doing retrospectives in a formal ceremony setting, the easier it is to start thinking in retros all the time. When you make a mistake at work, it's like, okay, wait a second, this happened. I'm starting to notice a pattern. This is happening in different areas of the project with different team members. And so it helps to kind of make that a practice. Just like if you sit down and do formal meditation, all of a sudden you catch yourself doing something crazy in real life and you take a breath and move forward. So this is a personal example, but also you can use this, and obviously it's very important in business and or professional settings.
Great. Another retro style is start, stop, continue. One of the most popular and straightforward retro styles that there is. This is an example of one using Easy Retro, which is another product we're going to talk about in a little bit. But start, stop, continue is really just what it sounds like. The team talks about items and actions that they'd like to start as a team, items that they'd like to stop because they're just not working well, and items that they'd like to continue because they're working just fine. Why not? Why fix it? That's really the core of start, stop, continue. Usually in a board like this, and we'll demo a little bit of this later, you can upvote these as the teams are coming up with these different items. Team members can sort of vote and say, oh, I like what Rachel said. I'm going to upvote that. I want to talk about that later. Let's go. So, and then the Scrum Master can reorder them, talk about the things that are most important to most of the teammates. Sometimes in start, stop, continue, most of the time, the columns will remain the same. Whatever card you put in a column will stay, but not always. Some people start, can be another person stop. So we want to be able to be flexible with that. But that's a little bit about start, stop, continue. We'll have a demo in a little bit of that.
Andrew, would you go back to the next slide? So the text is a little bit small, but in this example, Andrew and I have a pizza business in New York City. Andrew, could you walk us through a little bit of what it might look like to conduct a retro in this pizza business at the end of, quarter one or the end of the month? We're checking in on our financials. How would we conduct a retro for that?
Sure. If I can read it, I will. I might have to cheat with the screen here. So in our pizza company here, maybe we're doing a retro on the quarter. So some things we'd love to start doing. We'd love to start using more garlic. We'd love to have some vegan pizza. We'd love to start using more anchovies and trying different pizza cutters, for example. Things that we want to stop doing is using too much garlic. That's been a big thing that we've heard about. The stuffed crust is a no-go, And then things that we want to continue doing, trying out new sauces, offering delivery drivers to make our revenues increase. Working with Rachel on recipes is always fun. So the idea is everybody's talking about what do I want to do more of, what do I want to do less of, what's working. Could work for pizza, could work for real life business, making Salesforce apps, whatever you like to do in your day-to-day. Okay, a little bit on how to conduct a retro for any of you that haven't done this before but might want to. I'd like to say you want to start with setting the stage. So like, when are you going to do your retro? How long is it going to be? What style are you going to use? You want to have that information up front. So when I was a Scrum Master, I used to like to do them Tuesday afternoons. I would make them a half hour. I would use start, stop, continue. Everyone knew that. I did them Tuesday afternoons because our sprints started on Wednesday mornings. So it was a good bookend to begin the next sprint. Everybody would log in. This was virtually. This was like in the beginning of COVID. So it was very virtual. People would log in. And the first thing I would have them do once they're logged in is quietly populate the board. So the way I did it, and might be more of a me thing than a Scrum thing, I would actually do this all in quiet. I would cameras off, microphones off. I gave people, if it's a half hour, I gave people 5 to 10 minutes to just populate the board, start, stop, continue, in quiet, silent reflection. And this gave people the safety, and room and comfort to be able to give honest feedback without having to have that loudest voice on the room or on the Zoom call drown them out. I'd give people 5-10 minutes to populate all the cards and to go through and upvote, all the other people's cards as they see fit. Next, you, as a team, review the top results, move your cards, move your board accordingly based on the votes, and then just open it up. The next 20 minutes can be an open conversation about all the different items. People can talk, safe space. We're going to talk about the do's and don'ts about retros in a second. And then the hope is that you've come out of this agreeing on action items. Maybe you've solved a few things right on the call. Maybe you as the project manager, Scrum Master, have to take it away and make some adjustments during the next sprint. But the important thing is that when you go to your next sprint, project, training, marathon, you have some corrective steps that are going to help you move forward. And that's the general idea.
Yeah, I just had a quick thought, right? Retro really is an art form. There is a general framework of how to conduct it, but with your teams and with yourself, always feel free to experiment and really finesse what does work for you, because with every team, with every project, there's going to be a different flavor of retro that's going to work the best, helping you to set the stage, create that safe environment to really reflect and have that open, transparent communication with everyone. So have fun with it, and it's an art form. In addition to that, what other things should we do to conduct retros effectively?
Well, you definitely want to know what to do and what not to do. So some things that you want to do is make sure your retros are specific and your retro items are specific. So coming to a retro with this project is awful is not very helpful, right? So try to make it specific, try to make it something that, your team and your Scrum Master can actually address. Try to make everything improvement focused. This is supposed to be a positive exercise. Transparency is key, as with all things in Scrum. Time block is really important. This is this half hour is just to talk about retro, not other things. Rachel's going to go over some of the not to do's, but you really want to time box this. 30 minutes means 30 minutes, not 35, not 31, 30 or less. And then just have fun with it. This is your end project, all these other Scrum ceremonies and meetings all week. If you can get to a point that you can have fun with your team and it can be a little bit lighter than some of your other meetings, all the better. Rachel's going to talk about some of the don'ts for retrospectives.
Yep. So how many of you have ever been in a meeting where someone calls you out or you witness someone else being called out about, hey, you did this thing, what happened? Almost with an edge of hostility. How many of you have witnessed that? Okay. All right. We've got some stories to tell over here. Right. So we don't want to be blaming individuals or blaming individual teams. The question is not so much, why did you do this thing wrong, but what is there systemically almost what allowed this error to happen in the future, and what can we do to fix it from there? We don't want to be problem focused and stay in that land. It's all right, Chad, we know we got 10 customer complaints. We've heard you 10 times that people want less garlic on their Hawaiian pizza, but can we stop talking about that and actually talk about what we're going to do, right? Being problem focused keeps us in problem land and out of solution land, which ultimately is the whole point of Agile. How can we inspect and adapt and have that continuous improvement? Locus of control. How many of y'all have heard of this term? Okay. Yay, I get to teach something. Locus of control essentially is focusing on what is within our control and what is not. So we have our pizza business in New York. What is outside of our control is, oh my goodness, there was a snowstorm because it's in the middle of winter. Outside of our control. We don't need to focus on that. We can acknowledge it and then shift internally to our internal locus of control is how are we responding to those problems? What didn't work? Well, we did a pedestrian delivery service in the middle of winter. That wasn't really a hit with our customers, so let's try something else. We also don't want to talk about non-retro items. Let's keep it to the topic at hand, which is what is the sprint deliverable, what worked, and then if we need to, schedule outside meetings to talk about that. Don't go over time blocked, It is a sacred time. I'm a little bit known for being very choppy with my time, so we don't want to go overtime. And honestly, if we are keeping in the line and the focus of not being blaming or problem focused, it should be fairly simple. We also don't want to skip action items. That's super important, because if you don't have action items, you don't have process goals. And if you don't have process goals, then how are we going to make the improvements that we want to make to deliver the business value earlier on and sooner?
Okay, great. We have a couple demos. Easy Retro is, I think we saw a screenshot of it earlier, is a tool with dozens and dozens and dozens of templates for retros. It's mainly what the product is known for. In this case, I've used start, stop, continue. Your users can go in and put items that they'd like to start, like having a Labor Day sale. Items they'd like to stop, like stop putting sushi on pizza. Items that are working well that they want to keep doing, like, keep working on recipes together, keep doing all the things that are working. And then the team can, once the cards are created, the team can upvote them, go with the little thumbs up, and just upvote all the ones that they like. They're a little increment. And then the Scrum Master, Project Manager, whoever's running the retro, can reorder these cards as appropriately. You'll be able to see that I can move them up and down. They can move them left and right. They can throw little emoticons on there to give them a little bit of flair, and they can throw a little GIF on there to give them a little bit of flair. So that's just a little bit of what you can do with Easy Retro. I'm going to kind of skip ahead a little bit. And I think I have some other bells and whistles, like a timer and a survey, but it's a neat, quick tool if you want to just do a start, stop, continue, or a few other different retros.
They also have a Harry Potter one, just so you know. Definitely check it out. Alrighty, next up is we've got Miro. This is one of my absolute favorite tools to use, not only for retros, but for other things as well. Visual thinkers out there, anyone? Do you think in pictures and diagrams? Okay, great. So Miro might be a good place for you to try out retros if you haven't already used it. So here, what I'm going to do is go to creating a board, Miro.com, and then that will take me immediately to the template library, and I can just type in what it is that I want. So we'll go with retro. And as you can see, there are tons of different kinds. Christmas, Retro Man, don't know what that is, Rose Thorn Bud. So that's what we'll do. And you can also check out, you can do Agile, you can do brainstorm ideation, you can do business process maps on here if you really want to. So here's my Rose Thorn Bud. It pulls up a nice template with pre-populated stickies as well as a guide of how to use. All right, here's my Marathon Retro, and I can go ahead and just drag a sticky over, type in what I wanted. My knee is recovering, which is great because I got injured. I'm very happy about that recovery. Make it bigger. And we can also go to the template library, add in some text, some stickies. You can add in shapes if you're starting from scratch and want to make it a little bit less freeform, to add some structure in, connection lines, circling, starring, crossing things out, all sorts of fun things you can do with the pencils. You can also leave comments. If a team member says something that you love, you can comment on it, and it will obviously track that so that we can keep track of whose opinions are where, if you will. The frame is really useful for when you want to save things as an image, so it doesn't save this whole nebulous graph, but narrows it in. Paid features, video chat. We can do some upvoting. I think I'll show that in a second. Emojis, all be great. So as you can see, this is really a very robust and collaborative tool. If you're a visual thinker, definitely would encourage you to take the time to play around with it. And then as always, put a title. You should add a description because, that's best practice. And then you can share it with your team after that and be on your way. So those are two really simple tools, easy, accessible, pre-built. And then what we want to do now is talk about our third tool, which is our custom app that you can actually build in Salesforce to connect a retro within the org.
Because this is a Salesforce conference, we thought, hey, why not build something in Salesforce that we can demo here? We didn't really see any Salesforce retro things out there. There might be, but we didn't know of any. So we thought, let's build something. So what we built here, and we're going to show you, is just Salesforce straight out of the box. No app exchange packages, no ISVs, just straight Salesforce. And all this app does is really just has 2 custom objects for retros and then the items that could go within those retros. And the general idea is that a Scrum Master could set up their retros ahead of time based on their sprints or whatever else that they want to track. They can change some metadata on their retros. They can change the statuses of their retros as needed. They can also review the items that have been put in their retros and add new ones. So this is where the team could go during a sprint and they could put in a new item, like, oh, switch off taking notes. We should start doing that because there's always one person taking notes all the time. They could put in a little optional text and they can put as little or as much as they want to explain the action that they're trying to convey. And then we can go into the more meatier and fun place, which is the Kanban board for that particular retro, which is going to start to look a little bit familiar. With this Kanban board, you can then just move, you can jump back in and do some quick edits if you forgot to write something or you wanted to update something, you could do that really quickly. But otherwise, you as a team could, you as a Scrum Master could move things from left to right or up to down with the little emoticons, kind of conveying the emotion of the particular item, hopefully. The team members can pop back into the particular item and they can do additional edits, like if we all know that an item got resolved right there on the spot by talking about it, then great, we can mark it resolved and have a report on that and not think about it during the week. I also built in an upvoter screen flow, so just to give you that upvoting feel so that you can talk about the items that are most important to the team. And then you could pop back to the retro itself, then facilitate the discussion, as the Scrum Master can reorder any of these and put the things that have the most votes up to the top of the column, move things from left to right or right to left as they see fit. Just a fun little thing that we thought would be great because you're all Salesforce admins, developers, enthusiasts. So you can build almost anything in Salesforce, so why not build a retro board? So that was the idea. We did this just for this conference, just for you all. You're the first people to see it other than the 2 of us. We hope you like it. If you want to see more, thank you very much.
Yeah. So, yeah, it should be.
Yeah.
Props to Andrew for doing the lead work on all of that. And if you do want to see more, we are accepting nominations for Trailblazer DX. We won't turn that down.
We will do this at all the conferences. You just get us invited and we will be there. Okay.
So that's a basic layout. Obviously, one of the greatest things about this is that Salesforce is so customizable. So if there are additional things that you want to build extra lookup relationships to different things, you can really make it what you want. But first, let's just start out with the really lean. How do you build it? What is the features? What are the features?
How did we build it? I actually have a whole video, which we're not going to show because I don't think we'll have time to show. But for, in the future, if anybody is curious, I built a whole video on like how this was built. But just some core, again, out of the box Salesforce objects and functions. The whole app is just built on 2 objects that have lookup relationships to each other, Lightning record page, 2 screen flows for that sort of shifting of the mood, the emoticon, and the upvoter screen flow. Just a series of list views with Kanban styles that you can set up for all of your different various retros, which you can connect to your sprints if you have them. And yeah, we only stopped there because we're busy. We can't build a ton. But there's a total. If we had nothing but time, there's a whole bunch of other ideas we could have. Like we could connect sprints that go with these retros. We talked about a few other ideas, and I'll let you speak to some of them, Rachel.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's record types. If you want to have one for start, stop, continue, one for mad, sad, glad, one for rosebud, thorn, go in there and customize those emojis based on the columns, changing the column headings. You can have, different paths, etc. Really, the sky is the limit. The cloud is the limit. How would we make a funny translation into Salesforce? But yeah, just some other ideas, starting with the really lean framework, and then as we do in Scrum, as we iterate and we build as we go.
Oh, Rachel, I got it. The sales cloud is the limit.
The sales cloud is the limit. Is the sales cloud the limit?
Who knows?
I don't think there is one in Salesforce. We're always moving.
I made I had to build a video, but I think I'm going to skip it because I think Q&A might be more fun for all of us. Recap. I'm going to let Rachel do a recap quick.
What is a retro? It's an awesome reflection tool to help us understand what we need to do differently next time and celebrate our progress. Dig into the reasons and the root causes, if you will, of the challenges that we're facing in our personal and business life. You can do it for personal, you can do it for business. I did it for a marathon training. I've done it for a cheesecake recipe, especially if you bake in Colorado. There's a lot of different things that you need to take into consideration with the altitude. Mad, sad, glad, types, tips. Be kind, have fun, create safety, and be really, really laser focused. Miro, easy retro, build your own app, because you can, why not? So with that, yeah, let's open it up to Q&A if y'all have any, and if not, we'll show our demo of how to build it. Yes.
Sure. So one of the things that we've ran into with our retros is sometimes we'll have like a couple people that are more loud or more engaged than others. And so like I've tried to go around and make sure that everyone gets their say. But I didn't know if you had any recommendations for how to kind of get everyone's opinion on the team rather than having a couple voices more dominate the discussion. Yeah, great. I'll start and then pass it off. The tip that I said earlier, which was super helpful, which was having it start in silence. That was key because I did have people on the team that were really, really dominant and people that were really, really quiet, but had really valuable opinions. And I could tell that that was going to be a problem. So having that dedicated time, not just a few seconds, but 5-10 minutes where they could, in writing, put their stuff on a board. I don't even think we had names on it. You can turn that on and off so it could be anonymous. That gave the ability for some of the maybe quieter people who wouldn't want to get drowned out by those louder people to put something in there and then their teammates could vote, right? So what are you starting your discussion on? You're starting the one that has the most votes, the one that most people want to talk about. That may or may not be what the loudest person in the room, right? Whoever the Scrum Master is or person running the retro can dictate which ones we talk about in which order. So I think that gives you a little bit of leg to stand on to not let that person's issue become the most. If they have a 1 and everyone else's there's a bunch of 5s and 6s, that can help. There's probably a lot of other tactics out there to deal with that individual. You're probably dealing with that individual in other meetings and other ceremonies. That's a whole nother masterclass out there. But anything you can do to put the guardrails in place to let it be equal and democrative is what we would recommend.
Yeah.
Any thoughts?
Yeah, well, I mean, everyone has different ways of expressing themselves, right? There's the quieter participants that'll drop a one-liner and then completely change the way that you see things because they're very astute and observative, and those who are, louder and more talkative, if you will. So what I would ask you is, can you think of a reason why they wouldn't speak up? Like, what might be their motivation for staying quiet? Yeah. I mean, you don't have to think, you don't have to say it, but ponder that. And then if you can create safety around that so that they feel more comfortable expressing. But then also to Andrew's point is we can create different levels of ability to participate, whether that be an anonymous comment, whether that be a survey ahead of time so that people can send their things in so they don't feel, oh my gosh, there's all these people around here. I want to say something, but not. Or also getting feedback on, I don't really have anything to say this time. So that way, at least they're involved, even if the answer is no, I don't have anything. Cool. Any other questions? Jason, back here.
Do you have any personal preference for which tools you either of you like to use, or Trello, or?
I really like that third one we just looked at.
Not biased at all.
But I'll let you speak to that. Before that, I liked Easy Retro, but now I'm all about the third one.
It depends, right? Personally speaking, I like Miro. If I want to get creative, I also like pen and paper because you can take out a notepad and you can do it anywhere. What I did for years and years and years, I did business coaching way back before Salesforce, was really what worked, what didn't work, and what am I going to do differently. I also, I like the reinvent column if you want to add in a 4th column. I get bored with things a lot, but for some reason, I've never gotten tired of what worked, what didn't work, and what am I going to do differently, especially since you can do WW, WDW, and then it's really nice. But from a flexibility perspective, I would say Miro is a really good tool to use because, again, you can use it for BPMs, you can use it for retros, you can use it for all sorts of Scrum ceremonies, you can do all sorts of visual thinking sorts of things, which for me personally is really useful to organize information. It depends on the person.
Yeah. And your team and, the culture of the team. But the tools shouldn't matter that much, right? You find something that fits your world, but don't rely on the tool too much, right? It's about like if the tool isn't there, you should still be able to you have all the tools. You should be able to run a successful retro without the tools, right? Because getting everybody together, getting there, what went well, what didn't go well, what can be improved on, that is the important thing. The tools are just to help you get there.
You are the ultimate tool.
Rachel.
Don't take that out of context. This is only for the facilitator.
Rachel, they're here to support us. What are you doing? They're never going to come to TDX
Listen,
now.
language is important. It means something different here. Any other questions? Yes.
So how broad of an audience do you invite to a retro to still make it productive but get good like thought diversity?
That's a great question. I love that question. Thank you so much for asking. As always, here.
I'll go first. I'll just say I've done them mostly in the context of sprints, so I usually just invite this sprint team. I don't invite managers or other stakeholders. I've usually kept it to the team that's doing the work. So sprint planning, demos, whoever's at the stand-ups is going to be at the retro. It's to keep that sanctity of the Scrum ceremonies. But again, you can do, and I never invite Corey. Unless I need a selfie, then we invite Corey. You know? Yeah, right. But like we've talked about, there's many different types of retros for many different things, personal and business-like. So I'll let Rachel.
Yeah, I would say in a team setting, I probably would keep it to the people that are directly involved. If there are questions to follow up of, what happened here, something broke, the owner of the creator of the feature should be there. The person that first noticed the error should be there. And then if there's any questions of like, hey, this person was involved, but they're not really here to speak about it, let's make an action item to follow up. There's not really a specific number that I would say, but I would definitely say, obviously, the more people you introduce, the more chaos. 10 is probably what I would cap it at, but yeah, and that would be me personally if I was in charge of it. 10 opinions going on at once, it's a lot to balance, so it depends on your preference and experience level as well. Sorry if, I don't have a number for you, but it depends. Yeah.
Good afternoon, great presentation. I'm planning to host a quarterly retrospective, so it could be for a number of teams across various different regions, so it's more like 30, 40 people. Do you have any recommended templates or best practice solutions for running something as big as that?
So explain a little bit more about what you'll be doing and the context of it.
It's the end of our quarter, and a number of different teams are contributing to that quarter in terms of delivering on an objective for our business. So we want to get a view of how we feel we've done for that for the product we're working on, for those different teams involved, so dependent teams. So we want to get everyone together, what they thought went well and what didn't go so well. But it's the amount of people, and people in different areas of the world as well. So London, Denver, and possibly other locations as well.
Okay. Yeah, so you've got cultural factors. You said 30 people coming in at play. What things have you considered so far?
Mostly using Miro. Miro is a great sort of way to get people remotely involved together. It can necessitate some pre-work, so getting people champions in order to get people involved, some homework, so everyone is aware of it and the teams are aware of what I need to do beforehand. Mm-hmm. But I'm trying to logistics of doing something as sizable as that. I just need some advice on.
Yeah.
I mean, I have seen Miro used for groups of 30 before. It can be done. I've seen it, and I think it can be done well if you prepare and practice, and if everyone kind of knows what they need to do with the cards and make sure that sticks. I've never seen Easy Retro used for that much. There are other tools besides those two, obviously, or three, of course. There's other ones out there. Like I think I saw Mural was one. I don't know if that's
Mural.
one from Mural.
I've used Mural. It's a good tool.
One.
Yeah, Mural is one that jumped to mind. I know that there's others. There's certainly others than the ones we've talked about. I would just do your research. You want to look at what's going to be good for multiple people. What's the price? What's free? What's not free? Practice it out. Yeah, free's always good. Just you want to make sure people can get to it, right? They can get to it through their phone or through their computer really quickly, through a link and maybe a little code that they can all you don't want to spend like the first 7 minutes of your meeting trying to get everyone logged in. So, but once you're in there and it's comfortable, then it's just a tool like anything else. But those are the only ones I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, and I like how you've thought about doing the pre-work, so gathering people's opinions ahead of time. You know, maybe consider giving a deadline of, please submit your thoughts on this ahead of time. You may or may not, it depends on the people, pre-populate the board for them. And if you can add labels of, you know, who gave what comment, that way we don't have to spend all the time unless you feel that that would be a useful like team building exercise in some way. I would also say maybe consider like doing a tool demo if people aren't familiar with it, but if they are, then that may not be necessary. And then in terms of facilitating the session, have a clear agenda, definitely send that agenda ahead of time and see if there's a way that you can measure if they've received it or not, right? So like log in here and comment on this card if you've gotten it or something like that, so that you know that the people that need to be involved in the meeting are also prepared and also just like have it in the back of their mind, because I don't know, subconscious processing, it's like, I know I've got a retro coming up, so I'm just gonna let my brain work in the background. Yeah, hopefully that was helpful.
The other thing that might work for a group that big is have somebody on your staff that can help with the grouping of the cards. Everyone's gonna be throwing cards everywhere. Have somebody could say, oh, these are 7 cards about one topic, let them put them in the top left corner, and et cetera. That might help facilitating. There'll be little pockets. It'll sort of do what the upvote feature does. You'll be able to see really clearly and visually what people are asking and talking about.
A moderator.
That's a good idea.
Of sorts.
Yeah.
Yeah, good question.
Thank you.
Cool.
We've got time for a couple
God,
more if we've got more.
We have a little bit. Yeah, we probably have one more, right?
What do you do after the retro? What do you do?
Have a dance party. I mean, come on.
Take a nap. No.
Also start the next sprint, because at the end of the retro is when the next sprint begins.
Yeah.
So.
How do you make sure actions were taken that, you know, don't just say it and drop it?
You follow through. You want to make sure you follow through. That's really important. You don't want people to feel like they're going there every week, 2 weeks, and just wasting their time. So whether you figure out a solution right there in the room or you do it afterwards, it's most important that, like, if you're the Scrum Master, you're taking a screenshot or a report or whatnot, and you're fixing that. So that's the first thing I did. I was like, I better, the people had this, there's 3 stops there. Well, what's that all about? How do we pivot? So that was important to me. The other call out I didn't really have time to say is the more you do them, the less time they take. So I started with a half hour because, it was a full half hour in the beginning, but once we were doing them every week, you know, they get 20 minutes, 17 minutes, 15 minutes. Once you know, because the items, it's still important to have them and things will always come up. But so you try to refine them, you know, whatever. And you try to take what everyone has taken into the next retro. And hopefully if the retro's gone good, it's going to just start your next sprint or whatever the next thing that you're doing. Well, you'll come with good energy. If the team had good energy, continue is such a supportive column. We should continue having, you know, Rachel do these demos and Andrew do these demos, whatever it is. You know, like it's just, you take that positive energy and you just build it into the next iteration of what you're doing.
Yeah, the checkbox.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If someone was paying attention. One thing that I do with our team too is we've got our retro board and then we've got our weekly goals board. So we start with our retro at the end of our weekly sync, and we all have our action items of things that we're going to do different. And then immediately we transition into the weekly team goals and we put those retro items in the weekly goals. We do that on Friday. We measure again as like, hey, this is what we committed to doing. And then we tie it back again at the retro. We've got our items to be discussed, what worked, what didn't work, what we're going to continue to do. And then what we try to do is every 2 weeks is I'll just say, all right, let's go through this column in the continue. What has become status quo that we can delete and move it to the completed column so that we love the celebrations, but we also have to keep what's relevant at the top of the list. So there's some ideas on how to keep things tied together, keep everyone accountable. And, you know, another thing too is as you build this into your culture and you make it a practice, then everyone starts to hopefully have a little bit more buy-in, and then they get excited about following through on the action items, because when you click the box, there's confetti and then you get that dopamine hit, that reward, and it becomes this virtuous cycle. Hopefully. Not always that's the happy path, but we strive for it. Yeah, Heather.
Is there a proper place in the 3 columns? Sorry. Is there a proper place in the 3 columns to give out kudos for team members who go above and beyond to help during a sprint or anything like that?
Yeah, what worked? I tagged the person, I put their name in caps, and I said, you totally rocked this thing. And then make sure that this is my style. I try to embarrass them with praise, but it depends on the team. I would say what worked would be where it goes.
For me, it was continue. When I did start, stop, continue. Continue was Catherine did an amazing demo. Oh my goodness. Or, Rose did this, or, you just had that sort of, that's where a lot of like let's throw our kudos to people came out. So there's always a good column for that. It's always an important thing to have.
All right. Well, with that.
Yeah. Take out your phones.
Yeah.
Get your QR codes.
Some action items for y'all here.
You could find both of our LinkedIns from here, from our QR codes. And, contact us and let us know. Connect with us. What else do you want to learn from us? We love talking about this stuff. We love doing these kind of things.
/ tell us I don't know about you. Tell me your life story. I'm always curious to hear about that. I don't know if I can speak for Andrew, but.
Rachel will tell me about your life story.
No, I won't.
She'll condense it for me because I'll get the bullet points.
But seriously, thank you all for coming here today.
Thank you all very much. We really appreciate it.